Here we are at Jarrahdale. It's January 9th. I've been down in the southwest for Christmas and it's time to go home to Kununurra up in the Kimberley, in the East Kimberley. Unfortunately, we've got a major barrier this time. We've had the Fitzroy crossing flooding, which has been the worst in 100 years, in a century. And the Great Northern Highway has been absolutely decimated. Bridges destroyed, the roads look like absolute craters. So the only way home by road is through across the Nullarbor and to Port Augusta in South Australia, and then north on the Stuart Highway through the Red Centre. It's a 5,200 kilometre trip. I'm really nervous about it. It's the biggest trip I've done in a long time. I'm mostly nervous about driving it myself and staying awake that whole time, so I'm going to have to be really careful. But with it comes the opportunity. I've never been through the middle of Australia before, and I'm not going to have loads of time to do lots of tourist stuff, but I guess we'll see some scenery I've never seen before. So my plan is I'm going to go through the back of Jarrahdale on the gravel tracks to North Bannister, then through Wandering, Pingelly to Hyden, take the Hyden Norseman track through to Norseman, and then hit the Air Highway and head across the border to South Australia. So I've done the Nullarbor once before. That was a few years back, 5 or 6 years ago. Look, I'm just going to take some video footage and see what happens. This is completely unplanned, completely unexpected, but they often provide you some interesting experiences. So we're leaving Jarrahdale now. I will take any interesting footage that I stop and come across. This is Hyden, and this is where the bitumen is going to stop for about 300 kilometres as we go onto the Hyden Norseman track. So about 2:30 in the afternoon now, hoping to get to Norseman by about 6:30 this arvo. Lake Johnson on the Hyden Norseman track. It's a salt lake, which of course is more often than not dry in the southern Australian summer. And this would be a really handy place to stop and camp, except that it's still very hot because it's 4:30 in the afternoon in mid-January. And I've still got some more Ks to cover. These trees, I'm going to find out what trees they are exactly, but they're the trees of the Great Western Woodland, and they just have this awesome sort of golden brown sheen, if that makes sense. Really awesome colour. They just catch the light and they look awesome. And the track hasn't been too corrugated. So we're about 100 k's from Norseman now. I'm going to get back in the car and cover some more k's. I want to get to the Nullarbor Desert tonight. is another good reminder why you should never drive onto salt flats or salt marshes. It might look hard and crusty outside, but it doesn't take much to dig through into the softer stuff. And you can tell that would have been probably a really difficult recovery. And he's 100 kilometres away from the nearest help, so yeah, it would have been interesting to see what their story was. Righto, just leaving Norseman, so we're now onto the air highway, and this highway will take us across the Nullarbor, across Australia's longest strait, and well into South Australia. The next stop will be Ceduna. And I don't know if you can make out on that street sign there, but I think, yeah, Ceduna's, I think, going to be a good 1,100, 1,200 kilometres away yet. So we'll make as much ground as we can in this dying light and find somewhere to camp on the Nullarbor tonight, and then head into South Australia tomorrow, across the border. About 70 kilometres south of Balladonia Roadhouse. Still in the Great Western Woodlands, I think. Not quite up the Nullarbor. And I reckon this is where I'll stop and set up camp for the night. Road's only about 100 metres that way, but this will do. So as the very dying light disappears on the day, just a quick look at what I call my super fast setup. So this is obviously, it's just myself camping tonight. I want to get away back on the road as early as possible tomorrow and get going as quickly as possible. So this is how I set up if I want to hit the ground running the next day. So all I set up is the rooftop tent. I don't set up the awning. I don't need it now anyway because it's too, there's no sun or no need for shade, and I can just hang up that little light instead of the awning light, which is also an insect zapper, handy little thing. And I've just got my kitchen stuff, cooking stuff in the drawer on the left hand side. I've set up a really small propane burner. Pretty lame dinner tonight because, again, hitting the ground running. Just some cheese Kransky sausages. Easy setup, easy pack up. The essential. The old Dometic fridge running away there. And I take the ladder down and only put it up when I need it, when I want to get into bed. Just easy, gives you more access to the car. And there goes another road train. That's the air highway. Just a very simple highway stop. Lots more driving to go yet. I don't even think we've knocked off the first 1,000 yet. Just after dawn on the Nullarbor, or on the edge of the Nullarbor. We're still in the Great Western Woodlands, I think. And we are ready to hit the frog and toad, all packed up. Today, crossing the Nullarbor via the Air Highway. This is the proper start of the Nullarbor. So, Australia's longest straight stretch of road, 146.6 kilometres. I thought I'd get some video footage of this because it's probably not going to get very exciting for the next 146.6 kilometres. So here we are at the western edge of the Nullarbor Desert. Here we are, 10 kilometres into Australia's longest straight. There is not much, it's just straight. No curves, no twists, straight for 146 kilometres. A few other vehicles to keep you interested. I'm glad I'm doing this in the morning when I'm reasonably refreshed. So I reckon it would be fairly tough if you were doing this at the end of a long drive. There's not a lot of scenery at the moment, and I guess that's the Nullarbor. A 100 kilometres in, still straight. And you'll see that there are, or you'll notice there are very few trees around. Hence the term Nullarbor. No arbor. I've heard somewhere, although I get the exact details where. And here we are at the South Australian border. So this is the first of 3 border crossings we're going to be doing on this trip. And like the one up here where we live, this was a hard border during the pandemic as a COVID defence mechanism, and now it's just gone back to fruit and veg. I see the old WA fell off the sign here at the border. It should be up there where next to the SA one, but it's either fallen off with the winds or some aggrieved South Australians have booted it off. And it could be either with the hard border. Anyway, here we are, border crossing number 1. Great Australian Bite. This is just one of the many lookouts you can stop out to take it in. There is an actual ticketed park at the head of the Bite, a bit further east, that you can pay money in to go and see. And it's 16 k's off the highway or something like that, but I won't be doing that. Southern Ocean, I think. I don't know if you can make out straight ahead there, but you can see the sort of typical cliff drop faces that are fairly around the coast of the Australian Bight. This is the treeless plain section of the Nullarbor. You can see why under 300 kilometres from Ceduna now, so we're sort of doing the eastern edge of the Nullarbor now. We'll be out in another couple of hours out of the Nullarbor desert, having successfully crossed it. And you can see the trees have come back. So I guess we can say that we're on the other side, the eastern side of the Nullarbor now. So at the other end of the Nullarbor, here we are at Ceduna. I think this place is famous for seafood and oysters and mussels and things like that. I think I'll double check. I'm not going to stay here. I'm going to keep driving another couple of hours or so and set up camp. Yeah, peninsula. But yeah, pretty good run over the Nullarbor, all told. Well, it's getting dark, but I've just been given a tip from a mate that there's a track called the Gawler Ranges track, and that might be able to cut some time for me getting to the Stewart Highway. So I'm going to stop at the next town and check it out and see what have a think and try and see if I can plan something out. I might change my plans and take this track because I can cut out a good section of the eastward travel and head straight north if what I think is true is true. Running out of light for the day anyway. Well, did a fair bit of driving today. We've covered well over 1,000 k's, probably closer to 1,100 I should say. So no time to show you camp. I've just found a spot that I've camped about 5 years ago out near Puchira, and it's a good enough spot. It's away from the road, it's secluded, nothing else to write home about. I'll show you a bit in the morning. I've got a big decision to make tomorrow. There's a shortcut that a mate of mine's given me a bit of intel on, the Gawler Ranges road. It is a 280 kilometre gravel track, and he says the road condition's pretty good, so it's always a bit nerve-wracking. It cuts straight north through to the Stewart Highway, which would be terrific because I'm on my way north. We'll cut out the whole Port Augusta leg, which is essentially 500 k's of going there and back again to go north. So I'm thinking about it. I'm going to have a beer and contemplate. So it's dawn, not too far from the town of Puchira, in central South Australia, I guess, off the air highway. And we're all packed up camp, but this is where we stop for the night. Like I said, nothing special, but it's a few kilometres back from the air highway and nice and secluded and shielded by trees. So a good enough stop for travelling. And I remember this spot from a few years back when we drove over to Adelaide, so glad I remembered it because it came in useful last night. Perfect. Well, I've made my advice after speaking to the shopkeeper at Waralla, and I'm taking the Gawler Ranges track through to the Stewart Highway. So she says that's a very commonly taken track by locals. She even said people from Alice Springs tend to cut through this way if they're heading down to the Eyre Peninsula or across to Perth. So it's supposed to be a beautiful drive as well. So I'll take some footage once we get into it properly. These are just the agricultural pastures around Waralla. Okay, see you in a bit. the Gawler Ranges appearing in the distance. So far it's been a really beautiful drive, so, but I get the feeling it's going to get more and more spectacular. Only about 40 k's into the Gawler Ranges track, and we're starting to cross the various salt lakes that are sort of around the foot of the ranges. And as I said, 40 k's in, blown away with the scenery so far. Carries on out that way. Well, about 50 kilometres in now, and this is our first really good look at the Gawler Ranges. Starting to really open up into some beautiful countryside now. Plains, shrubs, hills, trees, gorgeous country. So I'll be at, well, most of the track done now. We're in the last 50 kilometres, and the terrain's changed from corrugations to boggy stones, like dry stones that's so loose they become boggy, and then it's changed back to sand, so there were sand dunes to drive on. The track keeps changing, which makes it challenging, but overall it's not too bad a track to drive. Next time I'll not be lazy and I'll let my tyre pressure down, you know, a few PSI next time. I was a bit lazy this time, so I didn't, and I've had I suppose a rougher ride than I needed to. station along the track, and when I say service station, it's an automated fuel pump. It's at Kununurra, so that's at the northern end of the track, about 30 k's from the Stewart Highway. So we'll stop and see there. The slowest sort of speeds I've been doing would be about 40 to 50 kilometres an hour. The fastest speeds are the sort of speed I'm doing now, I'm about 90 kilometres an hour now. So overall you're averaging sort of 60 to 70 I reckon on this track, and it will take you the best part of 4 hours to do. It's taken me a bit longer because I've stopped to take photos and footage and that sort of thing. And we're just coming to the end. We're in the last kilometre now of the Gawler Ranges road, and you're not going to see it. So we're pretty much going to go over that crest up ahead and hit the Stewart Highway, unless I'm reading my maps wrong. No chance. With this track, the first 100 k's and the last 100 k's are pretty good. The middle 100 k's is pretty hard work. That's what I've worked out. I will definitely let my tyres down next time. It's worth it. Because there are some corrugated sections, but there's lots of sections like this which are pretty good, pretty smooth. And here she is. The Stewart Highway. Port Augusta and Adelaide that way. Coober Pedy, Alice Springs and Darwin that way. And now the focus of our travel changes. So we've done the eastern section. We're now making the journey northwards back home to the Kimberley. Approach Coober Pedy, you can start to see the mounds of earth. I don't know if you can make that out on the right there, where people's opal digs are happening, and they're pretty much littered all over the country. The mounds of dirt from people's opal digs. There was actually a sign a few kilometres back saying don't walk backwards around here. Theory being there's lots of unattended, abandoned opal mines, and there's an actual real risk that you could fall down one if you're not careful. So interesting, but you've got to be careful in this country. Coober Pedy I should say. You can see in the distance, you can see that people have built their houses into the ground here. Not sure whether they actually did or not, whether they were just one or two houses. They are. Literally mounds of open mine dig out as far as the eye can see. go in every direction as far as you can see. Multiple thousands of mines there must be out here. Dig outs anyway. Incredible. And on the other side of the road. Wow. About 100 k's north of Kimberley, and what you definitely notice now is the soil starting to turn redder and redder the closer to the centre you get. And some of the desert trees and shrubs have returned now, so there was not much on the south side of Kimberley. But there's some of the desert type vegetation has returned now. We're going to see how close to the Northern Territory border we can get tonight and try and set up camp somewhere there. So it's all of a sudden got pretty green around here, and I'm figuring this is where all the rain from ex-tropical cyclone Ellie made it to. They must have had recent rain for it to be green like this. So yeah, the Red Centre is looking kind of green at the moment. Haven't seen any water in the creeks yet. If I do, I will let you know if I do find some at some point. So we've just left Marla Roadhouse, the last one in South Australia before you hit the Northern Territory. We're only about 150 odd kilometres from the border now, and the drive's starting to get more interesting. We're starting to see rock formations and ranges in the background, as you can see there. The other thing is, I was saying earlier that they've had a bit of rain here. Well, I've seen a few pools and sort of water holes in some creeks that haven't dried out yet since the last bit of rain. So yeah, the rain must be fairly recent. I mean, we knew that anyway, but there's still water lying around, and I imagine that's only going to get more and more as I head north, especially as we head towards the tropics. But anyway, the focus now, it's probably only an hour and a half of daylight left, and we want to find somewhere reasonable to camp now. There's rest areas and campgrounds. You guys know that I don't do those, so we're going to try and find a little track off the road that gets somewhere secluded. We'll pull up, enjoy a couple of beers, and get some rest. I reckon I'll sleep pretty well tonight. Pretty tired. This will be about as far north as we can go and camp as well, so I don't think, you know, there's a minimum of 24 here. That's about them. For me, that's about as comfortable as I can put up with, or that's about as hot as I can put up with at night as an overnight minimum. So this will be the last camp for the trip. I'll try and get accommodation for the rest of the way. I've got the tent fans as well, so that'll help. Righto, hopefully see you at camp soon. Well, just found this track, and I don't know if that sun shining through is a good omen or not. I reckon it is. Let's see if we can find somewhere. Here we are at camp for the night. I'd say we are pretty close to exactly 100 kilometres south of the Northern Territory border. And again, nothing special, but it'll do. Nice enough. I'm really close to the road, to be honest. Like, there's a couple of tracks leading off. There's the highway you can see down there, but I can't be bothered stuffing around trying to find anything else. It's good enough. Enjoy a few beers and enjoy these colours, I think. That's a pretty pleasant way to finish the day, I think. I'm happy enough with that sunset view. Cheers. Dawn, about 100k south of the NT border, and a very typically quick and efficient pack up, and we're ready to rock and roll on the Stewart Highway North. Should be at the border in under an hour. At the Northern Territory border, the southern border. Definitely making progress. Only a short 3-hour drive to Alice Springs from here. Right, so we're just at Under Roadhouse, and I just wanted to show you that this is the turn off down the Lassiter Highway for anyone who's heading towards Ayers, well, Uluru I should say, and the Olgas and all those sorts of places. I'd love to go out there, but you can see those sorts of distances are all one way. So if I was going to see Uluru, I've got over 500 kilometres return just to this point. And obviously the time you spend out there, and I guess you'd want to spend an overnight time down there so you can see the sun going down and then the sun rise and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, unfortunately I'm not going to go and see those places. One day I'll make a special trip to do that circuit, and I think you can also go through past Uluru on towards the Great Central Highway, which is I think it's a 1400 kilometre dirt track that takes you through to Warburton and then onto Laverton, and then you can get to Perth that way. And a few people are considering that option for coming back to bypass the floods instead of what I've done. But yeah, it's just a bit too risky for me, too far, too isolated. If something goes wrong, I don't like thinking about those sorts of eventualities. So I've actually taken a reasonably safe trip home. I'm sure most of the people will make it, no problems, but yeah, I'm not in that zone to be able to take that on yet. Amazing, like it is really quite green here, and I know it's because of the rain that's happened here, but you know, this river, for example, it's got water in it. You know, that would be pretty rare, I think, in this part of the world. Only after big rains would you see water in the creeks and rivers here. quietly confident that it doesn't normally look like this here. Just very lucky with the timing to see it say green. Now this is pretty incredible. The Todd River in Alice Springs is actually flowing. And I reckon it would be fair to say there are people who have lived in Alice Springs and never seen it flowed. It's just luck of the draw that the day I've driven through is just after they've had a tropical low go over, and there's been a bucket load of rain in the catchment. And you can see the cars having to cross the water now on the Todd. And normally that crossing would be dry, it's a road really. It's not built to be anything but a road, because they rarely get any water go over it. So that is incredible, and that's just luck of the draw that I've been here to see that happen. Unbelievable. The Todd River with water in it. Flowing quickly. Well, this is pretty amazing, and the timing again is unbelievable of me being here. This is the Gap, named for obvious reasons. The road into town from the south comes through that gap. But you can see that the Todd River, which rarely ever flows, like can go years without flowing, is now flowing all the way through the gap. And I'll zoom in and show. Not heaps of water left because I'm a few days after the rain, but still flowing nevertheless. Pretty unbelievable timing, I think. And there's an even better view of it. So again, the Gap, the southern entrance to town, and a sight that's not commonly seen is the Todd River flowing. So a very lucky timing. Could be a long time before this happens again. Lucky me, eh? Left Alice, which is spectacularly green due to all the rain they've had. You'd never see it like this normally, I reckon. But we've got a big day's drive today. I need to make it all the way to Catherine, so it's 11 and a half, 12-hour drive today. So a lot of grind, a lot of burning rubber. I don't know how much filming or stops I'll get to do today. If I see anything interesting, I'll film it, but I haven't got lots of time to look around or explore or stop, so, which is a shame because I've never done this drive before. But we've had it, yeah. I enjoyed the stopover in Alice. I don't think many people would get the opportunity to see it the way it's been the last week or so. I don't know if you can see ahead there. Believe you're in the Red Centre at the moment. It's just so lush and green, and the creeks all seem to have water, and the water holes all have water in it. So just passing over the Gawler Railway bridge. Centre. Who would think it would look like this? Not far out of Alice Springs, we crossed the Tropic of Capricorn. So we are back into the tropics. I left about a month ago to go down to Perth. Not anticipating this trip. So what I can tell you is there, the Stuart Highway's recognition of the Tropic of Capricorn is a lot more spectacular than the ones in northwest Australia. So about 100 k's north of Alice Springs now, and I'm starting to see a lot more evidence of floodwaters now. So you can see along the side of the road there's quite extensive floodwater still there from the rain, which was earlier in the week. At some point I reckon that would have been close to going over the road. So as we go further north, I'm expecting that I will come across some water over the road at some parts. And that's the reality of Northern Australia now as we move into a different weather system, which is currently the wet season. Coming into Wycliffe Well, and the flooding here is very recent. You can see it on the side of the road, but there were signs up saying water over the road here, so it's only just, we've obviously just missed it, I think. You know, in the last day or two it's been over the road here. UFO capital of Australia, I didn't know that. There you go. There's a fair bit of water moving over the road here, right near the Wycliffe Well roadhouse. I mean, that's flowing heavily. You definitely think twice about driving over that. There's rocks in the middle of the road as well. Luckily, you don't have to. But that's some significant floodwater. And I'm sure it's recently been a lot higher than this, so I've sort of come in probably a couple of days after it was at its peak. So we'll probably see more of this as we move further into Northern Australia and further into the wet season. And yeah, here's the first example of water across the actual Stuart Highway. So, and it's still flowing. Under the car a bit of a clean, that's for sure. And again, there's quite a bit of water here. Glad I didn't bother washing my car. So we're starting to approach Kalu Kalu, or as it's known in Anglo-Australian language, the Devil's Marbles. These are right next to the Stuart Highway, so I thought I'd stop in and check them out. Pretty epic. up here. What I didn't realise is it's actually quite a vast place, a vast expanse of these marble-shaped rocks. And it has a similar feel to it, although it looks completely different, has a similar feel to the pinnacles in Western Australia. And I can see, just like the pinnacles in Western Australia, I can see why the Aboriginal people and the Aboriginal people who lived here and visited this place would have had a very spiritual sense of what this place meant. It's very obvious why. Another sure sign we're in Northern Australia. Termite mounds. A giveaway sign of Northern Australia. The first sign of some ominous looking clouds ahead, and that is most certainly rain ahead. The thing you notice about driving due north for a long way in a short amount of time is the change of weather patterns from a southern Australian summer to a northern Australian wet season, and the humidity has been building up. You can feel it, and it looks like we're going to hit our first bit of rain in not too far north from here. Okay, leaving Tennant Creek. We've definitely caught wet season now. We had a little bit of rain, not too much, but we just missed a storm that went out to the northwest of where I was. And there's water over the road regularly now. So it's, I think the next 600 kilometres we're going to really transition into that tropical top end climate. And see a lot of dynamic change, I think, over the next 600 kilometres. And I'm not sure, like, it should be in theory about 6 to 7 hours drive, but depending on whether we come across more water over the road or heavy rain, then those conditions could change, and it might be a bit longer before we get there. So we have to get there tonight because I've got accommodation booked. Alright, fingers crossed, here we go. Heading north towards Katherine. 650 kilometres left. These green trees starting to look a little bit more like top end scenery now, so you know that you're heading into the northern half of the Northern Territory now. And that sort of vegetation on the side of the road is very different to anything we've seen on the way up so far. So we're approaching the Three Ways roadhouse, named as such because there's basically three directions. You can go north towards Katherine and Darwin, south towards Alice Springs, or east towards Mount Isa, and then on towards North Queensland. Been lightly raining for a while now. You can see that there's water over the road, and there is pretty much water flooding out most of the land that we're passing over. So it's, you can see it on the road. We've driven over flowing water a few times. Welcome to wet season. This is wet season, alright. And some of the rivers we've passed have been furiously flowing. So if I get a chance, I'm going to stop at one, and I'll show you how quickly the water's flowing from the catchments. There is heaps and heaps and heaps of water around. About 50 kilometres north of Elliot, and the long grass has started again. Another hint that we're getting towards the top end. Some very dark looking clouds ahead. Might get more rain. Just quickly stopped at Daily Waters, and I think we can safely call this back on the top end now. It's muggy, humid, raining, warm. Flood water pretty much everywhere, as it should be this time of year. Only 250 odd k's to go now. As I was saying, welcome back to the top end. Lots of heavy cloud and just continuous drizzle around, and it's quite muggy and steamy outside now. I was going to say, incidentally, this is about the point now that I would call this top end Australia now. This is probably about the point where you'd be wary of waterways and that sort of stuff. So if you did have to drive through water, or go off the beaten track and camp by rivers or creeks and that sort of thing, this is about the sort of spot where I would start exercising all your croc wise safety strategies and camping well back from the water, or just not going anywhere near the water, to be honest. So I know that it's pretty rare that they get saltwater crocodiles up sort of Catherine Way or this far inland, but they do find them up here, and particularly after big wet season rains. That's the time where they do get them. So yeah, once you're in that top end area, I'd really start paying lots of close attention to the waterways and just being wary of them. About to drive into a monsoonal downpour here. So I was wondering when we were going to hit the first one, and it's going to happen pretty much at Mataranka, about 115 k's south of Catherine. We've narrowly avoided a few since Tennant Creek, but not this one. And again, glad I didn't bother washing the car at Alice Springs. suppose I should get out of this, eh? Before I get hit by lightning. Well, 40 k's to go, the end is in sight. It's a big day's driving today, so we've covered about 1,100 kilometres of the Stewart Highway from the smack in the middle of the country to the top end. And we've gone from one weather system to a completely different weather system. So I'm a bit tired. I'm looking forward to a beer and a nice meal, to be honest. Because all I've done today is drive. Just got to get my accommodation sorted, and then I think I'll go straight to the pub. And then a really short leg home tomorrow. Relatively short. It's only 500 kilometres to the WA border and home to Kununurra. I'll be at home by probably mid-morning WA time. Righto, so finally the last leg home after about 4.5 to 5,000 kilometres of driving, and we've basically circumnavigated the entire western half of the continent. We've only got now a short 500 kilometre drive back to Kununurra, and we'll hit the border and be home in Kununurra in, probably in 4 to 5 hours time. So the novelty's well and truly gone from the drive now, because I've done this leg of the drive many times. Whenever we go to Darwin, we have to go this way. But it is a beautiful drive. There's another video that I've made about the NT that has most of the interesting things from this. But there is one thing I'm going to check out on this drive, and that is the Victoria River, because Timber Creek and the Victoria River catchment got absolutely smashed by Tropical Cyclone Ellie. So I want to see what the water levels are like and what impact the tropical cyclone and flooding's had on that area. Should be fascinating. So really, looking forward to seeing the Victoria River, and looking forward to making a home finally, even more than that. 500 k's to go. Victoria River Valley, looking very green and lush. Normally it looks just red, you can see red sandstone. But this part of the world looks so different in wet season. Unbelievably different. So much water has come through this valley and this catchment area. More water than we could probably comprehend, they've probably in the last month, some parts around here have had more water than some places in the south get for their whole year. It's spectacular both times of year, because obviously it looks amazing now with all the greenery. And in the middle of the dry season, obviously you've just got that red sandstone, which really stands out and looks spectacular as well. So, always great scenery when you drive through this Victoria River Valley, I should say. The Victoria River in full flood. Brown, murky water. And very high water levels, well past the usual bank levels. And you can there's still quite a bit of water moving down. There we are, see the boab trees. That's a sure sign I am very, very nearly home. 200 k's to go. I'm just going to check out a very short four-wheel drive track to a place very close to Timber Creek called Policeman's Point. That'll give me one last look at the Victoria River, which got an absolute deluge over Christmas. Some of the worst flooding this place has ever seen, and just speaking to the people at the roadhouse there in Timber Creek, who said they've lost their whole caravan park. I think they said only three units were still usable. The rest were pretty much washed away with the flood waters. So we'll be interested to see what she looks like from the lookout over the Victoria River here. I've seen what the video footage looked like on the news. By God, it looked like an ocean flowing through a town. Well, this is Policeman's Point at Timber Creek. We come here a few times a year. We usually drop in here on the way to Darwin. Good fishing spot and look out over the Victoria River. This is the highest by some margin that I've ever seen the water levels. You can see by those trees there how far the water's gone past its banks. You could not fish here at the moment as far as I can see, because there's no way to get anywhere near the riverbanks. The water's just come up so far and still flowing fast as well. Very, very strong currents. Saltwater croc country, and it makes you think that with the rising flood waters, those crocs will be way more mobile now, and they'll be able to get into lots of creeks and waterways that they wouldn't have been able to get into previously. So we'll have to be very croc wise this year in this part of the world. But worth stopping in here. Absolutely epic. Massively high water levels. I think it's surely gone a good 40 metres past its original banks. Oh, after 5-6 days, 5,500 kilometres, thank jeebus for that. Western Australia, you beauty. Our third border crossing for the trip, and I've never been so excited to see the quarantine inspectors who are going to check my fridge for fruit and all that sort of stuff. Pain in the butt, but on this particular occasion I'm stoked to see them. Okay, so after going out of WA, across the Nullarbor, through the Gawler Ranges, through the Red Centre, to the top end and then back west again. We are back in the East Kimberley. There's the crop warning sign. And here are some of the first sandstone ranges. This particular spot here is Thompson Springs. The rocks around Thompson Springs. So, not far from Lake Argyle. Anyway, we'll be home in about 25 minutes. You bloody ripper. Welcome home.